Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news, the week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi for Me TV.
The Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content. Tune in and subscribe to Comic Talk with Pops Van Zant on YouTube.
And the gang's all here. It's the open topic night. We talk about anything that pops up over the next hour here. Whatever we've been holding back, wanting to vent about, wanting to share over the past 2 weeks. How often we do this. We have with us James Lee, who has turned his camera into a drawing stream cam tonight. So share this out, #drawstream, so we can all tune in because people love draw streams. James, what are you doing there, man?
I am working on my graphic novel, The Steins, Rise of the Vampires. we have our launch for sign up, which is the pre-launch, this Thursday, December 1st, over on Joe Reaper Destroyer's channel. And we have some big surprises for that show. I have some guest artists that are going to be helping out on the campaign. And you'll be able to sign up when you sign up. We have a special cover for anybody that signs up before the launch that only those people that do the sign up will have an option to buy. We're not going to print. We may print like a 10% more just for damage books, but they're not going to be on eBay. They're not going to go to cons or anything like that. So the only way you're going to be able to get this cover is signing up on the pre-launch. So that's what's coming up.
All right. Mike Walters, fresh from the Mike stand, Monday through Thursday, niche news, Friday night, comic book.
Yeah, mainly this past week we only went 3 days because of the holidays. So
yes,
but I also looked at it as a good way to better segue into December, because all 5 weeks, of course, will be covering July of 1939 comics that went on sale on the historical comic retrospect. Obviously, I do have some interesting news. You and I were talking about one of the news items earlier. I'll bring that up a little later, because I know we're getting started off with the Charlie Chan stuff a few minutes ago. So I'll let you guys, get through that, and then I'll probably bring up something that I know James may have heard about as well. I wanted to touch up on that I was talking to you about earlier, RJ.
And speaking of the Charlie Chan stuff Mike's talking about, there was our pre-show discussion with George Peter Gatsis, who on the George Peter Gatsis channel has been running, mystery movie nights, and has been putting up some of the public domain Charlie Chan films, which are starting to gain some traction. George, how's that going out for you?
It's going good. Excellent, actually. Now we're doing Charlie Chan with Number One Son. We loop back to the beginning after we did Charlie Chan with number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 sons, and number 1, number 2 daughters, and just crazy stuff.
They sort of changed structures on those films, it seems like, as they went further along. And we've seen several of the films now with Birmingham as a character, sort of a comic relief sidekick character.
Did something just happen?
Something just blinked somewhere.
Well, I saw the blink, but then it sounded like you went. I don't know if you had just stopped talking or
the universe blinked.
There was a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, I sent you a link if you wanted to join us as well.
But speaking of Number One Son, I had to buy some material for shipping today, and today the cheapest option for the shipping material just happened to be Amazon, because I didn't need a ton of it, so I didn't need to spend $50 on shipping from Uline. So to get free shipping from Amazon, I had to add like $20 to it. And I had, looked at things I've got sitting in my weight carton, and I decided to pick The Amazing Chan and the Chan Clan on DVD, where Number One Son comes back to voice the voice of Charlie Chan. He comes back around full circle. Student becomes a teacher.
Yeah, I remember that was in the 70s, that particular show.
So that'd be a fun nostalgia trip. I like finding those old cartoons I used to watch as a kid, getting them on DVD. I'm going to have to get Clue Club at some time. I know what's going to happen, though, because it's happened to me plenty of times where there's been shows that I loved as a kid. I get them on DVD, and then I watch them. I'm like, what did I ever see in this? It does not have the same joy and appeal that it once did.
I don't know. I think they do. Just it takes you have to look at it. Take a look. Take a step back a lot of times. When you're watching them, and just go back to that time that you did enjoy them. I mean, when we're not doing the open panels on Sundays, a lot of times at this time, sometimes I'll turn on MeTV Plus and catch Sunday night cartoons, where they show a bunch of old Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies, old Warner Brothers, or old
Oh well, Looney Tunes. Yeah, I
cartoons,
mean those
Columbia
things.
Pictures. A
A
lot
lot, a
of
lot of the shorts retain their immortality. I mean, they just don't ever. They were great. I think I'm thinking more stuff like that was more tied to the times, like the
Right.
Brady Kids.
Mhm.
When I used to watch that, or I picked up the Pebbles and Bam Bam show, and
or even some of the Archie series.
yeah, Archie didn't hold up.
Archie's and new Archie's TV funnies.
Archie's Weird Mysteries.
That one came later. That one came in 2001.
Yeah, that was bizarre. And I wasn't really a fan of the art on that one either. They didn't quite.
Well, that one was different from the Filmation produced stuff.
Very much. Oh.
Well,
So what's coming up in December here, Mike? When you get into the comic books this time around? Hey, there's Tim.
How's it going?
All right.
Doing all right, man. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because when I was telling you guys how we were reading, through the Charlie Chan stories, Tim was with me when we were doing that. Actually, Tim had some very interesting things to say about it. Tim, you want to share with everybody what you remember when we were reading the Charlie Chan story?
Was it the one? I don't remember. Oh yeah, it seemed kind of unnecessary to read those when they actually have movies that you can just watch instead.
Yeah.
They're all black and white movies, but it's just like, why do I want to read something like when I can watch the movie?
Well, I've heard people tell me the same thing about comic books in general. Like, why read a comic book when the movie does the same thing?
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because
There's a little difference between there should always be a little difference between the comic book and the movie.
Yeah.
Well, here's another funny little thing. Because RJ, you just asked me what we're going to be looking at more specifically here in December. As I told you earlier, we're going to be looking at books that went on sale in July of 1939. So we'll, of course, do DC Comics on the 2nd, and Tim will be with me then. And then we'll focus on Dell on the 9th. Rick will be with me then. And then Tim will be back with me on the 16th when we cover Centaur. And then, Centaur Publications, Centaur Comics. And then you're going to be with me on the 23rd when we cover Fox Feature Syndicate. And then on the 30th, I'll have Rick again with me. And that time we will be focusing in on Quality Comics and United Feature Syndicate, because they got the 40th issue Tip Top Comics. Now, granted, it's only skeleton details, so we'll just be doing just a quick little thing before getting into the reading of the Quality Comics. But going back to what we were talking about, how you were talking about, well, why read the comic? Read a comic book about movies if you can just watch the movie. Because the movie are sort of just catching up to the comics, and comics hundreds of thousands of more stories.
Yeah, but in this case, it was the reverse. This was where the movie came first, and they started making comic book adventures based on the movie, the Charlie Chan series.
Yeah,
but
but
it's all a matter of writing.
It's kind of funny too, because one of the books we're going to look at from DC this week, and we might touch upon it a little bit, just look at briefly, is Movie Comics Volume 1, Number 5. Now, back in 1939, one of the other books that DC did, and it only lasted 6 issues, mind you, was Movie Comics. And just take a wild guess at what the majority of the stories were.
Porn?
Yeah,
No.
that's what I'm going for. Burlesque peep show movies. Yeah.
Nope. They were basically comic adaptations of movies.
Well, yeah,
Straight
that
up.
comes with the title. Movie comic. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you got your Ben Hur.
They did have a couple other little features in there, like mini movie segment or whatever. But for the most part, they were they were pretty much comic adaptations of movies.
Now, so I've got to ask, because I didn't read the Charlie Chan one and I wasn't there for it. Did they balance it the way that the movies do with the pseudo serious murder with the comedy of the assistant? I mean, were there lighthearted moments in the Charlie Chan comic strip mystery?
I think that might have been. I guess some of the interactions between Charlie Chan and, of course, number one son, like how at times how he would like say, let's see, let me see if I can remember.
Number one son had to have an inferiority complex because
right, because it's like I remember, I don't remember the exact line of it, but at one point, like Charlie Chan was going something along the lines of, yes, I don't even remember the exact line, but he basically was saying something about number one son's thought process, how it was lacking.
He was always telling number one son how stupid he was.
He was calling him stupid.
His number one son's thought process seemed to be lacking. Like he wasn't basically picking up what what was going on.
And he would always turn around and apologize to whoever was in the room. Apologies. Number one son's brain too small for cranium.
Stuff like that.
Saying, this is my number one son. He's retarded. Sorry for that.
Basically.
Oh boy.
Please excuse.
I myself, I understand people think that term is funny, but I don't.
Well, what I mean to say is that he basically said, this is my son. He's not smart. I apologize for his lack of smartness. Yeah. He doesn't even. Does he give him a name? Does he even have a name, or is it just number one son?
I think it's Lee. I think his name's Lee, and I think they did mention that in.
Okay, I was just saying, like he's like it's almost like an insult to call him number one son and then insult him in his face.
Number two son was Jimmy, right?
Son. He's a moron.
Yep.
Yeah, Jimmy Chan, number two son. George, you maybe want to watch these again all over. And I know there's a bunch of them you probably can't show yet.
Yeah, I got like 15 of them so far lined up.
Lined up, but I mean, is the entire library available for public domain showing, or do they all have to be cleaned up?
No, I have to clean them up. What's online is not complete. By the time I finish, it will be complete. There's only 5 movies that are in the late 40s, early 50s that are claimed by Warner Brothers, and you can't show them, even though 3 of them were released without any copyright notice, which makes them 100% public domain.
That was dumb on their part. I mean, you would think after they did it once, they'd like, we need to put copyright notices on everything.
Yeah, no. The copyright notices were actually spread out across the entire. The lack of copyright notices were spread out across the whole run.
Of course, they have the legal department to fight anybody who would try to use it.
No, it's a very simple matter to contest, but it just takes time, and I just don't see the effort. Yeah, I just don't see it.
So wrapping up the year on your channel, George, what movies are you going to be bringing to the mystery movie night, or is that part of the mystery?
Behind the Green Door, Debbie Does Dallas. Also, Debbie Does Chicago, and of course the best one of them all, Debbie Does New York.
Yes, of course. This is all on George After Dark.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you doing like the same thing Sleazy P. Martini's doing?
No, not even close. I'm doing Mystery Science 3000, but doing it better.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's what he's. Sleazy P. Martini has a specific type of movie. It has to be copyright, no copyright, something he can show without having to pay anything, and it has to be a exploitation film from the 70s. Those are his standards.
Yeah,
His,
that
and he
yeah,
does the same thing. He makes.
Does he show it on screen, or is it talking heads? And,
Yeah, well, I think he does.
Go ahead.
He shows it. I think he shows it. He shows it on screen, and then they'll cut to him, and he'll say something funny, and then he'll go back to the screen, and then he'll be making little quips here and there.
He cuts it back and forth. Okay.
No. We hold on the movie. We don't divert attention.
Oh, okay, I see.
So you just run the movie straight through and then do the commentary either before and or after
through it, talk over it. Yeah.
No. We talk over it as it's running.
Yeah, everything is instant, and it's
and the beauty is we watch the actual movie night is the first time we're actually watching the movie.
Yeah, there's no pre-edits to this. Everybody's just jumping in.
Kind of like my show. There's not a whole lot of. There's no real pre-edit on when I'm doing.
No. You're reading the book. That's not being reactive to something that's coming at you visually and audio.
Yeah, you don't get as much surprise, but we do comment on the books when we're reading them because we'll turn the page and we're like, holy cow, they did this. Okay, you wouldn't be able to do that today, but
you can't pause. You can't pause like you're reading when you're reading a book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't get that.
It has to be hard to think of something on the spot.
So RJ, I know that Pop's got Cromcom this weekend. So were you gonna try to do a hard stop by 6?
I'm at the top of the hour. I'm gonna try to do the hard stop period because I'm just tired. I gotta go back to work in the morning.
I know you usually go on to Pop's show. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna move things ahead a little bit then because I know we're already coming up on 5:30. So
bring up what you got, man.
All right.
By the way, before we go, just want to point out there's 4 Charlie Chans that are lost, are forever lost in time because of fire. 1932 Chance, 1933 Greatest Case, and 1934 Courage. And 1931 Carries On is only available in Spanish. Somebody destroyed the English print.
You should find the script for it and overdub it.
Well, I was thinking of us doing the dubbing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. It's like there's I guess a black and white silent movie called Metropolis. That was, I think, the original was lost to.
Metropolis is pretty much restored to its full capacity now.
Yep.
The only problem is that all the restorations since the original airing, they all been running at 24 frames a second, and which makes it, I don't know, like 3 hours something, maybe a little more than 3 hours. But the original presentation was run at 16 frames a second, which makes it like something around 4.5 hours.
Yeah, it was filmed at a different rate than normal.
Yeah, and it actually is a completely different movie. I mean, it doesn't look like it looks like cinematic. It looks and feels gorgeous. Without there's no quick movements and stuff like that.
Yeah, Tim, you might have been thinking about London After Midnight. That's one that was just recently. They claim to have found a copy of.
Anyways, I want to also get James in on this particular next topic here because I'm sure he might know a little bit about it since he's knows a bit about Japanese culture. Have you guys heard about Vice's hit piece?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Vice wrote a hit piece on manga. saying it's all pedophile, it's all porn, it's all this stuff. The woman that wrote the article, it's already been proven that they basically edited out like 3/4 of it to fit their narrative. It was a straight up piece of garbage hit piece. I mean, they named an anime that I personally have seen, saying it was pornographic, and I wanted to ask them exactly where is the nudity that you saw in this entire series, because there is no nudity or any type of nudity in that entire series. Vice is garbage, and also on Vice, they are laying off more and more people. I'm predicting in the next 5 years, Vice will be gone. Their viewership, their integrity is shot to hell. They're garbage.
Well, Vice is supported by, I believe, Soros, and I could be wrong, but I vaguely remember one of the stories we did news nights about Vice being supported, cash infusion. And in my opinion, because I'm not 100% sure, I'm trying to pull it out of memory, and Vice is doing God's work.
You know what's kind of funny about this too, and I was telling RJ this when I initially asked him about it earlier. Pretty much ever since the whole Me Too movement and the whole thing with Vic was getting started, I was starting to think at some point, somebody was going to sit there and try to call Japanese people the P word. And lo and behold, Vice has pretty much done it.
It's been coming for a while. I mean, who was it? Jerry Conway tried to call him out.
It has backfired spectacularly, because what was leaked was the actual transcript of what was interviewed, and it shows that there's like 45 minutes of stuff that was edited out and other stuff that was hacked together. This was a complete and utter hit job by Vice. I mean, it is garbage 100%.
Well,
if you really want to get into something,
the question is how Japanese people feel about it. That's the people
they
insult.
They went after them. The Japanese culture, the Japanese government, they went after Vice like you wouldn't believe.
Well, yeah, the mangakas in particular. I know that there are people like Hirohei and Yellow Flash who even talked a little bit about that, where even the mangakas have gone after him for
all that's irrelevant. What's irrelevant is that the government of the Japanese government actually went after Vice. It's one thing for corporations and individuals to go to comment, but when the Japanese government gets involved in finding the disinformation, it's because lo and behold, manga is one of its greatest economic money makers.
Right, and the thing is, I mean, look, there are a couple. You go into that point, George, in terms of government and their support of manga and anime. A couple of things that I know about. One, the Japanese government has actually blocked the video of the Vice hit piece from being shown in Japan. They blocked it. If you're in Japan, unless you have some kind of special VPN or whatever,
or you have a copy of that video on another channel. Blocking is useless. Blocking is useless.
Also, I remember hearing this a while back, because there's been a lot of talk how Japan's birth rate has been going down over the past few years.
You want to know what's no?
Let me finish, George.
Wait, hold on a sec. I'm adding to what you're saying. I'm adding to what you're saying.
Finish the sentence is all.
Yeah, I know. But hold on a sec. You said Japan's birth rate's coming down. I'm just adding to what you're saying. China's birth rate, there has been no new births in the last 3 months.
Here's the whole thing about Asia, Mike. When you talk about birth rates, that's been happening for the past 4 years. Okay.
Yeah.
That's been going for quite a while, and the Japanese government specifically, and I know this for a fact, went to manga and went to the anime and said, you need to make more romantic, more family oriented.
Basically,
That's where I was
how
going with
to
it.
how
That's
how
where I
to
was-
films. Yeah. Go
Well,
ahead.
what they're trying to do is get couples and families to get more and more couples, because right now it's like, but below 35, 78% are single across the board, and they're trying to do things when they're having to close schools and stuff like that because there is no births in the cities. They're really desperate about it, and it's a national problem. And you're talking about China. China's
That's
even worse.
interesting because many years ago it was there were slow births in the small towns outside the cities, and most of them were moving to the cities. Now they're having trouble with slow birth rates in the cities.
It's all across the board. But
Yeah.
the things that's going on in China, there's another process that's going on in China. China right now has been in a 3-year drought. Okay, so most of their energy is done by hydraulic, by by waterfalls, and what I'm talking about, hydroponics. Okay, their big rivers are drying up. Not only that, their water that's underground is tainted where they can't drink anything. They have a major issue with water depletion. So they've got a lot of troubles over in China right now. Along with that, with Japan and like that. Now, but that's what they're doing. Yeah, Japan, they control what goes on with manga. The government does. They're heavily involved. The other thing is you have to look at the society of Japan. What is the legal age for women to get married in Japan? Do you all know?
I have no idea.
It's 16.
Isn't it 15?
It's 16.
16.
So of course, they're going to have it where they're trying to get more people, young, 16, 17, 18 years old, to understand, hey, we want y'all to have boyfriends and girlfriends and everything like that. I mean, now, if Vice is so upset and so screaming about manga, then why the hell are they not coming on and going like, why are we teaching 8-year-olds and having pornographs in school, in elementary school here in the United States? Vice won't touch that shit. Pardon my language.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's funny though.
yeah. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I know that Vera Dark pointed this out too when she was covering that stuff. It's funny how a lot of these people get upset at the whole idea of cultural appropriation, of when people sit there and try to quote unquote appropriate other cultures, but then they have no problem with trying to infuse their own cultural morality on other cultures. Because now, James, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. There are a couple of things I've read before in the past. I don't know if they're still the case now, but as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, age of consent in Japan, as I understand it, is 15, and compulsory education in Japan also ends at 15. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me.
The education does not end at 15. It actually goes higher than that. But
I know in China,
relationships, 15 is legal. And I'll say this, okay, and this is on the books. You can go check it. In the state of Texas, the consensual age is 13. In the state of Texas.
Gross.
Well,
I'm serious. You go look at everything that's in the western states. I'm talking about Colorado, Montana, all those western states. The consensual age for a girl is 13 to 14 years old. Every state, including California.
Well,
Oregon,
I think that's in that case, though, it's usually there's an age difference applied. It's like I think in a lot of these states where there's no restrictions, where you can just give consent, it's anywhere between 16 and 18, and then if it is 13 to 15, it's usually with some kind of restriction.
No, the actual laws specifically stating the westerns that it's 13 years old. They've been on the books since the 1800s, and nobody's taken them off.
Would those be considered blue book laws where they don't enforce them at all, or
they still hold up in court?
Yeah,
those laws still hold up in court.
Strange.
It was still a pioneer time back then.
Yeah, it's strange how like certain laws just kind of fall through the cracks. Like in Washington, there's a street where it's illegal to. It's basically illegal to rain.
The age of consent to shooting a a water pistol for kids is when they learn how to chew gum?
Yes. Yes, it is.
If you want to talk about a law that
Strange planet we live
do you know
on.
do you know what the law in Texas is for stealing cattle? You know what the penalty is for that?
Oh, it's death.
Yeah, there's no other penalty for it.
Yep. It's we just don't get around to fixing old laws. We're too busy writing new ones.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. But now, for some real fun, has anybody been paying attention to Disney?
No, I did hear that.
What do you want to know?
Did change over the CEO.
Oh, believe me, George, I can tell you a whole lot of stuff's going down right now with
Well,
their.
George has been covering a
What
lot of
shit is
Disney
Disney
on his channel.
No, really. What do you want to know?
I mean, dude. All I can say
Anything
is
you know.
MGM Part 2.
The what?
Come on,
MGM
George.
Part
Do you remember
2.
what happened to MGM?
Yeah, I know what happened to MGM.
It's MGM Part 2, except for one time in the history of wokeness, the female CFO of Disney actually did her job.
Okay,
And that's stopped a whole lot of crap.
Okay, that's boring. I'll tell you. I'll tell you something juicy that we discovered last night.
Oh, go ahead.
Disney is caught up in the FTX scandal.
Not by that much.
Not only that, but Denali and I have been saying it for 3 years that Apple's going to buy Disney, and now that Chapek's gone and Iger's taken over, they're going to fatten up Disney, or they're going to make Disney fail to the point where it reduces the cost of its stock prices, and Apple comes in and buys it.
Now, here's the deal about FTX. Okay, FTX only out of all the people they screwed over was $3.1 billion. That's it. Here's the other little tidbit about it. Chapek lied about the books. He completely lied about it. They spent $15 billion on the streaming service, and they lost over $8 billion because of their crap they produced. Their movies are tanking. Everything's tanking because of Chapek's stupidity. Now, not only that, here's the big news.
Hold it. Yeah, you're wrong.
I'll be right back.
Everything you said about the numbers is correct, but you're wrong. It wasn't Chapek. It was Iger that set all this in motion. It was Iger who created the forcible contract to buy Hulu for $30+ billion. And all that stuff. Chapek came in after this to actually take the fall for all that crap.
Chapek approved a lot of the $15 billion that was used.
He had no choice. They literally dropped all this in his lap.
Well, here's the other thing. This is the biggest news of all.
Yeah.
Deutsche Bank.
Yeah.
Just sent them a message. If you didn't hear, basically they're telling them to get their shit together or they're going to pull the credit.
Yeah, we covered that on the news night.
And you heard about the thing about ESPN?
No, actually, that we didn't. Go ahead.
Deutsche Bank already told them sell ESPN.
Nice.
Didn't know Disney owned ESPN. Disney owns everything.
Disney owns Fox. Fox owned ESPN.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they Deutsche Bank basically laid down the law, and Deutsche Bank. I don't give a crap about Apple. Deutsche Bank is the big boys. They're the ones that gave the credit to Disney. If they pull credit on Disney, Marvel, done. Star Wars, done. Everything in Disney, done. It's over. It's gone. They'll break it up.
It just makes Disney that much cheaper for Apple to buy.
Well,
because Apple needs content.
The thing about it is, would it be that bad if Apple took it over? Because here's another.
No. Listen, hold a sec. Sorry to interrupt, but Apple buying Disney is a big plus. I'll tell you why. Apple needs to compete against Amazon and Netflix primarily, and buying parts HBO Max. But here's the thing that's everyone actually has been paying attention. China has been dicking around with Disney back and forth for the last 6-7 years. Oh yeah, we're gonna air this movie in China, and then they pull it. Oh yeah, we're gonna put this movie in China, and then they pull it. They've been forcefully making their demands on Star Wars and all that stuff. Oh, we want the Jedi ghost to be a certain blue color, And they do they do all the hoops. They run through all the hoops. They do everything that China wanted, and then they said, "Yeah, we're not going to air this now in China." So
They were counting on that money.
yeah, they were pulling. They were making Disney blow its resources.
Well,
and now here's where it gets bet. When Apple buys Disney, Apple already has a great relationship with China. Apple will take the Disney content right into China, no roadblocks whatsoever. It's a win-win.
no, hold on. Let me explain some things about what you're talking about. But here's the things: China has, because of the relationship with the United States government, has become hostile to Hollywood's movie studios. That's part that's not been mentioned very much like that. The Shang-Chi movie didn't get taken. Wakanda is not going in. They're not allowing any of these movies in because of political turmoil with the U.S. government. It doesn't matter if it's Apple or what, they're not letting the movies in. I mean, now, yes, Avatar got in, but that's Avatar.
No, Avatar didn't get in. Oh, wait a minute. Avatar didn't get in. Avatar was already in there. James Cameron made the sequel to Avatar in China.
Can I finish, George?
Yeah,
go ahead. Here's the thing about, I'm going to give you the numbers because this is what the numbers are. Right now, Disney is a $231 billion company. That's what it's valued at, $238 billion. Apple is a $2.3 trillion company. Right now, they are sitting on $84 billion in cash that they're not doing anything with.
Yeah.
And I do agree with what you're saying about Apple buying Disney, which I hope they do, because they need to fix a lot of crap. But the thing about Disney right now, it's so toxic that I don't think Apple would go for it.
Well, that's the beauty, isn't it? Right now, let's just talk about brand, okay? Brand quality, brand loyalty. Disney has burned its brand recognition with the audience that supported it, okay? Not only for Star Wars, but also Marvel and also Disney.
Correct.
Now, here's the thing. Apple buying Disney out, their brand recognition is a lot higher and more how should we say, more potent, more poisonous. Not poisonous in a bad way. It's just very, very dense. It's going to be very hard to whittle down Apple's brand loyalty. And that Apple brand loyalty and love, if you will actually carry upwards rehabilitate the Disney brand and the Marvel brand and the Star Wars brand.
5 years from now, you'll be able to say, "Hey, Goofy, what's the weather?" And your iPhone will go, "It looks like it's 74 degrees outside."
Hold on a minute. It's not going to be 5 years.
Actually, speaking of Goofy, his voice actor, Bill Farmer, just recently celebrated his 75th birthday.
Okay.
Hold on just a minute. Let me finish, George, before you interrupt. It's going to take longer than 5 years to fix this mess.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay. Now, not only that, the same about the Iger being there for 2 years, that's not going to happen. He's going to have to be there at least 5.
No, that's true. Budgets in Disney are approved anywhere between 3 and 5 years at a time.
But right now, the budgets are getting cut because they ain't got any money.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. This is the whole thing. This is why.
No. Hold on a sec. The budgets that are getting cut are future budgets. The budgets that they already have, money in hand, has already been allocated and sitting there to burn.
That's the problem. The money in hand is shrinking quicker than you can think because of the creditors are now antsy about sending them any more money.
Yeah.
See, this is the whole disaster they've got. Because I've already listened to the analysts talk about where are they going to get their money from. They don't have the money everybody thinks they have. They do not have the finances because here's the problem: when you have a movie, every movie they've had come out the last year has not performed correctly.
None of them
have been underdone. Yeah. They have been losing money on every film, especially this one that just came out Thanksgiving. That one they lost almost $180 million right off the bat. It's gone because that movie's tanked.
Yeah, the strange world, strange realm, something like that.
But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, when you have a movie fail after fail after fail after fail after fail, and your streaming service is not producing like they're supposed to be, you cannot keep doing what you're doing. They have to stop. They have to stop all contracts. They have to stop everything they're doing and re-look at everything. That means I don't give a crap what the contract is. You look at the contract and say it's not worth it. Let's get rid of it. That's what Warner Brothers did.
Yeah, well,
What
yeah,
do you think?
I agree with you. And the major cuts at Disney are definitely within a couple of months, because they can't go into the new year with red on their books.
No, they're cutting it in like a couple of weeks. They already said they're going to start. They're doing layoffs this week.
Yeah. Actually, it sounds like what you're saying, James, is Disney needs to do like just an absolute complete reboot of everything.
This is what Disney needs to do, and I'll tell you exactly what they need to do. Break up.
Go into porn?
No.
Oh, okay, just asking for a friend.
George, you sound like you're.
Hold on. I'm fixing to jot George for you. You know Disney owns VCA Pictures?
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
they just ruined their image of me.
They've owned it since the 80s. If you didn't
What's
know that,
VCA Pictures?
Yeah,
one of the largest porno movie companies that's ever existed.
Yeah.
Oh, Vivid Video.
Not that I know anything about it. But
no.
What they need to do is real simple. They need to consolidate. First thing they need to do, break stuff up. They're too big. Second thing is the Star Wars, the Marvel, those two properties, they need to bring them in, stop all productions on everything, bring Iger in, bring Kennedy in, and chew their asses out.
Well, that's what happened with Marvel. They literally stopped everything.
No, I'm talking about Marvel production movies. I'm talking about Star Wars, everything like that. Bring them in, chew their butts out, because they spent $25 million an episode on that she crap Hulk bull garbage. $25 million an episode.
Where do you think
the MCU?
Yeah. Where do you think Black Rock falls into all this?
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yes.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is real simple. They need to stop. They need to get them in there. They need to fix this mess. Because if they don't fix this mess, it's going to get worse. Because as they're saying, as one analyst said that I saw, what was it, yesterday on one of them, what are they going to do for money collateral? Sell their parks?
Well,
exact words.
They're gonna, instead of $6,000 for a weekend, they'll do $12,000, just like Comicsgate. The less the audience, the double the price.
Yeah, that's gonna work. That's gonna bring more people in. Yeah, raise the price.
They already did.
That will work. Yeah,
they raised the prices 4 times this year.
There you go. I just made it up, and it actually became reality.
No,
he speaks the words, and it speaks it into existence.
Yeah, you know what happened? Their attendance is worse than anything. The other thing that this is Chapek 100%. 100%. This isn't Iger. This is Chapek 100%. He blew the self-governing continent agreement.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful.
That is the biggest screw up ever in history.
That was beautiful.
Because now, here's what's going to happen. Now they just can't go build something on the park. Now they have to get Florida's government to approve it.
Yep.
They lost their self-governing body because of Chapek and their idiots at Disney.
Absolutely.
The biggest disaster have.
Absolutely beautiful.
I mean,
they lost their Vatican status, which means that all that money that they were hiding and moving around so that they can make the books look good, it's gone.
Well, on the books, because it's a kind of open company, anybody that's an investor, like I am with Warner Brothers, can send a message to the CFO requesting information on the books. Okay, that's the law. So if I want to know, say I want to send an email or a letter to the CFO of Warner Brothers Discovery, and say I want to know what you're doing with DC Comics. What's the status of the audit? So like that. I have the right by law as a stockholder and an investor that I can ask that question and they can send me the information. Now I can't go out publicly and say what I saw, but I can ask what it is.
What about those guys that just came in and put a $800 million investment, which was basically we calculated about 0.05%. Can you hear me, Kerry? Hello?
Yeah.
We lost your audio there for a minute.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, what about the guys who came in and spent $800 million buying up some Disney shares, which we calculated was about 0.05% of the overall number, and they have made a move into Disney, and it looks like they were making demands.
Well, that's not the guy to really worry about. There's another guy you need to worry about because he owns over $1.5 billion of the stock.
$1 billion and a half. That's what 1.4%.
He got one of his buddies on the board of directors.
Oh,
he is making some major statements in the press, and he wants fiscal accountability. This guy is livid about what's going on with the stock.
Wait. He's in the press. What's his name?
Yeah, there is somebody I know because I think I covered a story or similar story to that about a month or so ago where
this
one of
happened
the shareholders is actually getting a little antsy with them.
Okay, but since the guy's in the press, what's his name?
I have to go look it up, but he made it on it was on Fox News and it was on NBC, and he was furious.
Okay.
So, but he's got a guy on the board. He wants fiscal accountability, and he was the first guy that he wanted Chapek out. So he's the first guy that went after it. Now, the CFO, hats off to her. She did her job, and she came in with the books and the numbers and showed it to the board of directors saying what Chapek said was a bold-faced lie. And these are the real numbers. This is what's really going on, and you guys need to do a vote of confidence, which is what they did. And that's what got Chapek removed.
Nice.
So they called Iger up to come in to fix this mess because they're not happy with Iger for bringing in Chapek in the first place because they screwed this up. But going on that, any investor, it doesn't matter how much they own, can request information from the company. It's just they can't go out publicly and share it all, but they can go out and say, I want to know what's going on. It's just like when he had his quarterly meeting, I was able to sit in on the quarterly meeting to hear what Zaslav had to say. Now, if you ask me, they need a guy, not like Iger, but like Zaslav to go into Disney and clean house.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Because
it depends on how much they go in the red, how much their stock tanks. That's all it depends. You start messing with creditors, you start messing with the investors and stockholders. It's ugly. And when Deutsche Bank came out, what was it, yesterday or the day before yesterday? They came out and made that statement. I was like, holy shit, this is going to go down bad. Because Deutsche Bank's the one that basically they got most of their money from to fund their movies.
Anyways, I wanted to James. There were some things I wanted to ask you on another topic. I want to.
Which one?
Well, I don't know if you heard, but they stripped Thunder Rosa of the AEW Women's title and have retroactively made Tony Storm's and now Jamie Hayter's reigns lineal as opposed to interim.
Did I not say that she was gone a few weeks ago? I said a few weeks ago that she was gone. I said
they haven't said that. They still
she's gone. She's not in the company anymore.
That's not what's being reported.
Well, I can tell you right now.
They're just simply saying that she's injured and that
she's not coming back. She's not coming back. No, she's gone. She wants out. I know for a fact she wants out.
That's not what they've been reporting, though.
They can report whatever they want. I can tell you that came from her herself. She wants out.
Sometimes they slowly leak the stories out and craft the narrative to where they can't just say she's out.
Yeah.
Well, because they're still saying that they plan on having her come back to challenge for the AEW Women's Title.
They can, like I said, they can say what they want to, but she's out. Now, if we're going to get into some more wrestling, of course, New Japan's big show that's coming up January 4th. You have King Omega going back into New Japan. Yeah. He's going to wrestle Will Ospreay. Also, Carl Anderson will defend. This is a good one. The Neverweight title as well in Japan. Even though he's with WWE, he is going to defend the title.
Yeah, I remember there was a big stink about that because WWE had scheduled him for the Clash of the Castle, but New Japan was not happy about that because he was also scheduled to defend the open weight title on the same night, basically.
Yeah, yep. That's exactly what happened. But
I heard an interesting wrestling story today too, and I got it off of Comics by Perch of all places.
Which one?
Well, it was apparently this was an article written by apparently not a wrestling fan or somebody who's not familiar with wrestling, but I guess there's an Appalachian circuit wrestler who goes by the name of the Progressive Liberal, and he's a heel, and if you're going to be in a largely conservative area of the country, you're going to try to rile them up by wearing Joe Biden pictures all over your tights and stuff, and he's been getting attacked by fans, and the writer's like, this is going too far. And, with politics in America, when, a professional wrestler can't even, not be, have things thrown at him by wrestling fans. And Perch was like, Ric Flair's had rocks thrown at him. There's, that's the thing with pro wrestlers.
I remember hearing a story from back in 1971 when Ivan Koloff had defeated Bruno Sammartino for the WWF world title.
Story very well.
Where basically there was a near riot that happened over that.
That's not the whole story. This is the whole story behind that one, Mike, because I know the story very well. Bruno wanted some time off, and he had been champion for 7 years, and so he decided, because they had so many near falls with Ivan, that he decided that he was going to drop the title to Ivan. So they're in Madison Square Garden. He drops the title to Ivan, and the place was in shock. The actual report was you could hear a pin drop. And the referee and WWF got so scared that they hurried Ivan out of the building. And basically the next 2 nights Ivan came into the buildings for the next shows. He was getting death threats. He was getting he was the most hated person on God's green earth at that moment. But again, he was a heel. That was what his job was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can tell you, here's another story. This happened in the 80s with Ivan Koloff, Nikita Koloff, and Kosher Khrushchev. Now, of course, Ivan Koloff is originally from Canada. He's not Russian.
Right.
Nikita Koloff is from Minnesota.
I hate him even more now.
He went to school with the Road Warriors and Rick Rude and all them. Kosher Khrushchev's from Minnesota as well. So they're doing a promo shoot in front of the White House. They're in full character, okay? Full character. The Secret Service arrests everybody. Not only that, but because they stayed in character, they were fixing to deport Ivan, Nikita, and Crusher. They were going to send them to Russia. They broke character real quick, but that actually happened. That's one story. Now, here's another one. This happened in Kuwait. Nikita Koloff is going to go in there and wrestle Sergeant Slaughter. So like a week before, they got Nikita Koloff stuff all over the Russian nightmares coming to Kuwait like that because it's pro-Russian at this time in Kuwait. Only problem is the Russian ambassador didn't know who he was. The Russian ambassador went to the promoter and said, "Why is this great Russian coming in and you didn't notify me? He needs to stay at the embassy, not at a hotel." Well, I mean, this is really going down.
Take the room.
So the promoter had to explain, no, this is what's going on. Oh, this almost made an international incident, because he's like, why do you mean is American portraying as a Russian? He's really being.
Boy.
This video almost went to seriously like going straight to the Kremlin. One of those things. International incident over this.
Hashtag Russian face.
Oh yeah. So they get there, and they go out. This is from Nikita, and I saw the interview with Nikita and with Sergeant Slaughter. They go out. Slaughter's getting booed. Nikita goes out. Everybody erupts. But they told Nikita and Sergeant before they went out that the Russian ambassador was sitting in the stands, and a Russian delegation was sitting in the stands. So they get in the ring and they do the first lockup, and Nikita goes, "What are we going to do?" Sarge says, "We're going to switch the books. Just follow my lead." They flipped the match to where Nikita's the babyface. They flipped the match where Nikita wins, and all that they were told in the back was that when the Russian ambassador left, he was very happy. That's all that happened. But those are two incidences that I know of personally that happened. Now, the biggest one, the most disastrous one, happened in Reunion Arena over here in Dallas in 84, when Terry Bam Bam Gordy slammed the cage door on Kerry Von Erich and started that feud. They had to have every police officer in Dallas down there because people wanted to kill the Freebirds.
Okay, listen, I got a question to ask. What about Sugarcane Floyd, and how did he beat Hulk Hogan?
Oh, really? Hogan, that was the way it was scripted.
Yeah, it was scripted. That's how.
Yeah. Anyways, there was one. I watched an interview from Not Sam Wrestling last night. He interviewed Nick Aldis talking about why he was leaving the NWA. So this is what Aldis had to say about all that. Apparently, Aldis, I guess there's a disagreement between Aldis and Corgan in terms of where creatively they wanted to go with the NWA. It seems like Aldis wanted to go more in line with what was going on in the 70s, whereas at least from what I got from the interview, Corrigan wanted to go more with what was going on in the 80s, because some of Aldis's criticisms of what Billy Corgan was doing was like Gags a Gimp, for example, was one of the things that Aldis was not happy about. What he seemed to indicate was whether or not what was being done within the company was not what, in his opinion, gonna pass the Harley race test, as it were. I don't know if you heard about what was going on with all that, or you wanted to comment on it, or you had anything to say about it.
Yeah, there's always going to be differences between creative and wrestlers and stuff, because like all this got pushed out. And I'll be honest with you, if you look at Tyrus and you look at Aldis right now, Tyrus has more pull. Tyrus is the better focus of the company, because why? He's got a freaking contract with freaking Fox News. I mean, he's
got more cross appeal.
He's got more knowledge appeal. He's huge. And he puts power on him.
Wait a minute, how huge is he?
Well, let's see, he is 6'4".
Oh, okay. You're talking about physical. You're talking about physical.
6'4", 300+ pounds, but in terms of
he's got $1 million contract with Fox News.
Okay.
He's pulled right now. The show that he's on with Gutfield, they're pulling more people in to see him on television than Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay. Well, when's the big match? When's the big belt thing going?
They just had it.
Well, Tyrus is already the NWA. He defeated Trevor Murdoch and Matt Cardona at Hard Times a couple weeks ago. So
it just happened. But yeah, he's been very popular for a while now.
Okay, what about this rookie Back Bacon Frank? What about him? I mean, do you think he has a chance?
It depends on how they want to book him. You have to understand, when you're a champion, there's more to just being a champion or just holding the belt. I mean, you've got to do some other things too. You've got to number one. Here's number one. You got to be the face of the company. Number two, you got to make all your bookings. Number three, you got to be loyal to the company. Number four, you have to show that you can maintain and make your opponent look good every time you're in the ring. Okay, those are the four keys of being NWA World Champion. That's the four keys about being WWE champions, and with IWGP. And they have to put him through the ringer to see what he can do, to see if he can pull it off. If he cannot pull off that kind of stuff, he's not going to go very far at all. No matter how talented you are, if you don't have that pull, you're not going to be able to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, that's what made Tanahashi and Okada so good, and Naito so good. They had that pull where they could, get 60,000 people in the Tokyo Dome. Yeah. Jay White has that. It just depends. You have to have that, like with WWE. There is a push for Austin Theory right now. He is a young, very young talent.
Well, wait a minute. Speaking of young talents, what about the women? I mean, are they even a consideration in all this?
Well, yeah, the women are. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give you an instance on women. Right now, New Japan Pro Wrestling went and bought Stardom. I mean, you're talking about Stardom is probably the best women's wrestling in the world. I mean, everybody that WWE got, Shirai, Asuka,
I tuned into Glow all the time.
All of them came out of that.
Well, what about Split Eagle Cindy? I mean, didn't she get a big contract?
He's trolling you guys.
Yeah, I know. I know George is trolling us because.
Nice going, George. But
I'm losing it here.
Hey, I didn't keep a straight
face. James. I know New Japan did just crown their first ever women's champion this year.
I watched the match. Yeah, I watched the match. I sat there and watched the whole show.
Yeah. Closing out here, I do want to clear up the thing about what Perch was talking about. He was using all that pro wrestling as an example because I guess there were like younger wrestlers who were like shocked that people would actually give them heat for being a heel in the ring. But he was trying to use that as an example of comic professionals who decided to become a heel on Twitter and then were shocked, I tell you. Well, not that shocked, that they were taking hate back from it. He brought up Mark Brooks and Heather Antos as specific examples of, deciding to be a heel on Twitter and then saying, I'm being attacked, help.
By the way, I got to bring this up because this is the funniest thing I've heard in a long time. You know how Twitter's toxic. I got to go to Mastodon. I got to go over here to Mastodon. They all went. They got over to Mastodon and started posting all their crap like they did on Twitter. They got banned.
Yeah, they were banning each other. The guy from Mastodon said, "Will you quit this stuff? I'm tired of banning people. Quit reporting them or just quit."
And not only that, but they were getting banned for doing racist remarks. The anti-white stuff. They all got busted for racist remarks and all this other stuff. And it was all hate. And Mastodon just like, you know what? We're going to ban all you guys out of here. And it's like, there's no place to go. We had to go back to Twitter. And now we can't, we can't control everything. We can't do this,
Weird Al Yankovic had a post removed off of Instagram. And he just posted on Twitter. He's like, okay, Instagram, where he was joking. He's like, yes, there are parts of my biographical movie that are, stretched a little bit. He says, for instance, Pablo Escobar and I are still real close friends. And Instagram took it down for dangerous activities.
Yeah. Well, obviously that biography is a joke. I mean, for crying out loud, it painted him as somebody who had a drug problem and he had a quote unquote relationship with Madonna or something.
It was a big troll. I mean, there was no autobiographical anything in that.
I know. It's hilarious and kind of awesome at the same time.
James, I don't know if you heard, but last night was also Survivor Series, and they introduced War Games. But apparently, they took a element out from the original. Like originally, when War Games came out when Dusty came up with that originally. The
No,
way
I
you
saw
win was surrender or submit, but they I guess decided to bring pinfalls into it.
No, the pinfalls were also pinfalls were also always in it. The difference is they took the top off the cage.
Huh.
That's what they changed. If you go back to look at the original War Games, the cage was completely closed off on top too. And
Yeah.
if you noticed in this one, no, there wasn't. I didn't watch Survivor Series. I'm kind of.
Well, I didn't either, but I did hear about it. I'm a little disappointed because I know that was a big selling point of War Games in the past was, the submit or surrender.
You could always pin them. You could always pin them, but it was an elimination. If you got pinned or anything like that, you got thrown out.
No, War Games was usually, I always understood it as being, it was always submit or surrender.
No.
But then somebody else came along and said that WCW actually did that a lot sooner than the WWE did it. But
No, the War Games was NWA. The War Games started in the NWA with Dusty and Project Promotions.
And continued in WCW.
No, he did it in NWA. When
continued, yes, it started in NWA, but it continued with WCW.
Yeah. Yeah, but it started in the NWA.
Yeah.
And it moved over. But, I mean,
Wait a minute. How many wrestling federations are there, whatever you call it?
Right now?
Promotion. Yeah. Oh, there are.
Hold on. Let me see. There's 3 in Japan. There's 1 in Australia.
Well, what are the acronyms?
What, for all of them?
There's a lot of them, but what are we are we differentiating between like national promotions and regional promotions?
We're doing the big boys.
Looking at overall, there's quite a few. There's well over 100, 200, I'd say, over if you look at every single one of them.
What about the emerging wrestling team? What do you call it? Club called the WEF?
There is no such thing, George.
That was the Wrestling Transylvania Foundation.
That's fun, George. But there's a lot of things going on in wrestling right now. There's contracts that are being negotiations, and there's probably you're going to see some wrestlers get fired and some go one place to another place. It happens all this time. I know January the 10th, all contracts in New Japan are up for renewal because they only do 1-year contracts with all their stars. They don't do a multi-year deal. So everybody gets a new contract after January 10th, and they go from there. And that's what they're like that.
Now, if you're talking like major promotions, okay, like Japan, James said there's 3, but I know of 2, like New Japan and All Japan. And as I understand it, because I've actually seen on Cage Match, All Japan still is running cards. So
All Japan's gone.
Huh?
All Japan's gone.
All of it?
They're still running cards, James.
No, AJP's gone. It's Noah. Noah's the one.
No, it's I can even show you.
The All Japan. If you're talking about the one that was founded by Giant Baba, it's been gone. The one that was founded by Giant Baba's been gone.
I'm gonna share something here that I want James to see because
okay, share away.
As soon as I grab it here.
Once it pops up, I will share it.
Yeah, go full screen when it comes in.
I'll do that. Once it's here. I found a koozie for my beer bottles. Yay!
Okay.
Wait, which koozie is that?
It's got this. It's got a little flying blue guy on it.
Ah, yeah, that koozie.
Yeah. See the Testify Memorial koozie.
If you notice, I actually own the copyright to that koozie.
Do you?
Yeah,
I did.
You'll see the copyright notice. George Peter Gatz in there. No, go full screen so we can see the whole thing. There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Now this site, James, is cagematch.com. Okay. They have like basically all of the events ever done. Okay. You see the logo right there? That's All Japan's logo.
I know what it is.
That had always been All Japan's logo going back to, and the date here, look here, 11/23. That was recently.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it was okay. I see what they did. They restart it. Okay. This is what happened with All Japan. I'll explain what happened. All Japan went under in 2014. Okay. And then Wrestle One came in and bought the rights to it. And at the end of 2014, under Wrestle One, they reformed. And then after that, 2 years later, they became All Japan again. I didn't know about them reforming. I knew about them going under, but I didn't know they reformed. So you have All Japan. I'm looking at their champions right now, which they've got a pretty good. That's not a bad group of guys holding their titles. But you have All Japan. You have Noah. That's the group that's going to be doing Muda's last match. Great Muda and Darby Allin and Sting will do a 6-man tag, but that'll be Muda's last match. And then you have, of course, New Japan Pro Wrestling, but those are the 3 big ones. And then, of course, you could say Stardom would be number 4, which is the all women's group. But since they're owned by New Japan, they're mixing them up. So, but that's the groups in Japan. But in but in the United States, you have NWA, you have MLW, you have
WWE, AEW.
Okay, yeah, those are the big 5.
Yeah.
So those are the big ones right now. Then you have the one in Puerto Rico, and then you have CMLL down in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to show you because I know you'd said that before that All Japan had ceased to exist, and I knew that was not the case because.
Well, see, I knew they had gone under. But I didn't know they had reformed under Wrestling One. I didn't know about that. But
they're still being produced, and from what I saw of the information, there's no sign it stopped. There was a sign that in 2014 there was a change in ownership, maybe, but they were being produced.
They were down for several months before WWE.
Don't they do crazier stunts in Japanese wrestling?
Oh yeah, you gotta understand something. Those matches can turn into a shoot fight real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And they do sometimes. They really do. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that happens in Japan. But in wrestling, enjoy it. Don't take it serious because it's not really that serious. Yes, the heels. If you're a good heel, the object of a heel is to get as many boos as you can and to piss off everybody in the stadium.
Right.
That's the job of the heel.
Oh, there's a couple of female heels in AEW that I think do a good job. Britt Baker and and Jade Cargill.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. There's still some good heels out there. I mean, they come out and they get booed. Hey, go for it. Be the heel.
Well, there were quite a few that were so.
The heel was Cardona that night. He got what champion was for MLW champion, where they basically threw every chair at him in the building.
Well, there's a few heels that were so.
Where like you had the Cactus Jack Terry Funk match, and you had all the fans throwing a whole bunch of chairs into the ring.
There are some heels that are so, I guess, awful that even WWE wouldn't pick them up, like that New Jack guy.
Well, New Jack had a reputation of not being safe. That's why he didn't get picked up by WWE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
liability.
New Jack was probably involved in one of the more infamous incidences in professional wrestling, and I'm sure you probably heard about this at some point, James.
You mean
The
like
mass
he
transit
stabbed the guy
incident?
9 times?
Did you hear about that, James? The mass transit incident?
Oh yeah, I know about that. I mean, you understand something. When stuff happens, it gets out, and it gets out real quick. And if you come across as not safe, you can pretty much say goodbye. I can remember. It's not Starlight Kid because she's over in Japan, but there was a Mexican wrestler female wrestler that just went. I don't know why. Basically, she ended her career because of what she did in the ring. But when she assaulted, can't remember who it was, but she basically really hurt her, and then she really tried to, destroy her career and like that, and they had to pull her off. But after that, she was done. Nobody would book her. Nobody would touch her. The thing about it is, in professional wrestling, the number one rule in professional wrestling: protect your partner.
Mm-hmm.
You got to trust your partner. You got to protect your partner. That means the person you're wrestling against.
Yeah, I remember hearing that when Perry Saturn was in the WWE, he had a similar situation where he kind of started taking liberties with one of the enhancement talents, and that's what basically just killed his push there. That's how he ended up with the whole Moppy gimmick, because I think it was in a match with enhancement talent Mike Bell, where I guess he got upset or something like that. He started taking liberties with Bell.
No, what happened was Bell actually cold-cocked him. And you can see it on the footage that Bell he was supposed to punch, but he was supposed to pull the punch, and he didn't. And that's going to get you, payback, and that's what happened.
So did Perry Saturn's career end shortly after the whole Raven Flock thing, or was it during?
No, what happened?
Yeah, that was well after Raven's Flock.
Well,
that was like about 4 or 5 years after Raven's Flock.
No, he wasn't in WCW that long. It was probably like 1 year after. But Perry, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Eddie Guerrero, they had a big falling out with WCW because they were smaller guys and because the way everything was being booked, they weren't getting anything. They were going to be down at the bottom. Bischoff saw no worth in them as anything like main cards or anything like that. So the four of them contacted Jericho, who had already gone up to WWE, and they went up there, and that's when they became the Radicals, and they came in with the outside gimmicks and had the feud with the New Age Outlaws and everybody. But that's when
Raven had some of the coolest promos besides other people like The Rock or Papa Shango. I love their promos.
Yeah, Scott Levy developed that character in ECW, and then it carried over when he moved on to ECW to WCW and eventually WWE. Scott Levy, that's Raven's real name.
Now do you want to hear a special secret that I know about?
What?
In the vaults up in Massachusetts, up in Connecticut, I'm sorry. In the vaults of the WWE office, there is a contract that sits there. That contract states that WWE has the rights to call upon the NWA to have a NWA title match at any of their shows at any time they wish. And all they have to do is invoke that contract. It is a legal document that was done.
Actually, you've mentioned that before, James.
Yeah. Well, I know some people have heard this. But basically, and if you guys didn't know that in a couple of shows during the late 90s, the NWA did defend the World Tag Team Championship and the National Championship on Raw.
Yeah,
if you guys didn't know that, they actually did. So because they were going all out after Bischoff and everybody, but they did pull that off. And yeah, they have a contract.
Well, considering that NWA's gone through, I think, a couple of ownership changes since then. You think that NWA would still be obligated to, if let's say Triple H did decide to have that match?
Yeah, they could do it.
Would Billy Corgan still have to?
Yes, he wouldn't have a choice. It's a court document. There's no end date to it.
I mean, could you imagine that match though? Tyrus versus Roman Reigns?
No, you wouldn't do it that way. Well, see, they did that in the past. They did that. They did that in Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund wrestled Ric Flair, and who was the other?
Well, that was still back then though. What you're talking about?
Pedro Morales.
WWF was still. That was still before Vince McMahon pulled out of NWA altogether.
No, WWF pulled out altogether when they named Buddy Rogers their champion. They were
but then they went back. The thing was, yes, they initially did in '63, and then
they stayed away from the NWA. The thing was, it was a good thing.
They initially pulled out in '63, but then Vince McMahon Sr. had gone back to them, I think, in sometime like in '71, '72.
No, because
Vince Jr. pulled out for good in it was like '83, '84.
No, when you pull out, you don't go back in, because, and the thing was, they were doing.
That's what she said.
Yeah, they were doing it. They had good NWA and WWF has always had back in the '70s good relationships because of one person, Terry Funk and Dory Funk, the Funk brothers. They had a good relationship with the Funk brothers because in the '70s, when WWF left, the biggest promoter of the NWA was the Funk territory, not Crockett Promotions. The only difference was Crockett Promotions had a TV deal once Ted Turner came in with TBS. That's the only reason every Saturday afternoon you saw it was because Turner loved wrestling. But Crockett Promotions was not the biggest boys in the room. It was the Funk brothers.
What I remember reading about was that Vince Sr. did quietly rejoin the NWA in 1971. Then Vince Jr. pulled out, I think, in like '83 or '84.
Didn't happen. They were always gone. They left. When they left, they stayed left. Because you can look at who their champions are. If they would have gone back in, they'd have to give up their champion. They couldn't have had it. You couldn't have the WWF champion inside the NWA.
You couldn't have a world champion inside the NWA.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
And that's what they had.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up another resource here.
Because you have Bruno, you have Pedro, you have Ivan Koloff, you have Superstar Billy Graham, and you have Bob Backlund are the champions of the '70s.
I'm going to pull up another resource because I know that, at least according to the resources I've seen, WWF did pull out in '63 and then went back into NWA in '71. So,
the next screenshot is pulling as we enter epic fact battles of wrestling history. I miss epic rap battles. Those were fun.
Okay. So I'm pulling up a site called Pro Wrestling Titles. This is a site that that shows basically the title histories of almost every single type of wrestling promotion. RJ, if you can share, I just shared it. If you could share that again.
Well, I'm on the wiki page. So I'm looking at the wiki page. So what are you showing?
This is a site called WrestlingTitles.com. Okay.
Are you showing the crossover matches?
Okay. Founded in 1963 when Capital Wrestling left. This is the WWF page for WrestlingTitles.com. This is a site that has all the title histories of all the, well, maybe not every single one, but promoters, Vincent J. McMahon, all that. So founded in 1963 when Capital Wrestling, that was the original NWA territory for the Northeast, left the National Wrestling Alliance. Again, members of National Wrestling Alliance between 1971 and 1983. And it had working relationships with the following organizations: New Japan Pro Wrestling, 1975 to 85, UWA Mexico, 1979 to 85. So, according to this and a few others, I believe, a few other sites, WWE did actually there was a time WWE was an NWA affiliate. And just to cement that a little bit more here, you were also talking about the idea of how they couldn't have their own world heavy. Well, okay.
No, if you look at what
world heavyweight title 63 to 71, heavyweight title 71 to 79. WWF heavyweight title,
right.
79 to 8.
Here's the thing. He rejoined as an affiliate, but he did not rejoin as a promotional situation. There's a difference. Okay? The reason he rejoined was to share talent, but he didn't rejoin as a full territory of NWA. That's the difference. Okay.
It says here, reduced from a world title to regional belt after WWF joins the NWA in 71.
Okay, according to the Wikidata, it's showing you as an affiliate, not as a full promotion. So there's going to be some gray areas in this disaster. But the thing was, because what they were doing in like 78, 79, they were, well, no, because that'd be 81 when Flair took time. So like the late 70s, early 80s, they were having the NWA World Champion and WWF Champion.
Yeah, because they reaffiliated. They were still, yeah.
Okay, hold on, let me finish. They were having the matches. They would end in draws. There are disqualifications, but they never beat each other. So that's where those matches came from. But yeah, on the wrestling stuff, anything can happen. But yeah, you have to understand that every organization except for AEW came out of the NWA. Every one of them did. WCCW came out of the NWA. WWF, WWE came out of the NWA.
Actually, even though it was an affiliate of NWA, at one point, CMLL, EMLL in Mexico, that one predated the NWA.
Well, I'm talking about with the NWA, okay? When you look at the NWA, CMLL is in Mexico. I'm talking about in the United States.
Yeah.
Everybody came out of the NWA. The Von Erichs promotion, WCCW, came out of the NWA. WWF came out of the NWA. WCW came out of the NWA. Now I'll take you back. What's the one that was up in New York? That was up in Minnesota with
AWA.
Yeah, AWA. That was separate. That was a separate.
Actually, they were originally part of the NWA as NWA Minnesota.
Yeah, you're right.
And then they parted ways in 1960, and they kept away after that. They didn't go back in.
Yeah, so that's where everything went. So, but that's it.
Like for the most part, you're right. A lot of them, I would say none of the aside from WWE, none of the major promotions came out of NWA, because they all came after NWA kind of had its falling out or had its fall from grace in the 90s there, because Ring of Honor. Now, granted, some of them had affiliations with NWA, like TNA did, but they did not come out of NWA.
No, they went.
I think the only one that's left that actually came out of the NWA is the WWE.
Now, when TNA started, they were NWA because they were using the NWA Championship. Then they broke off. Ring of Honor was just Ring of Honor. They weren't. They would host the champion, but they weren't officially part of the NWA.
Right.
But TNA, they did start as the NWA.
Actually, yeah, I guess you're right. They started out as part of, but I don't. Yeah, I think you are right there on that, because they basically try to get more of a national presence. That they got the rights to showcase the NWA World and World Tag Team titles.
If you really want to look at TNA, they are the remnants of WCW.
Right. Well, at this point, they're not. As Impact Wrestling, they're just, if anything, as Impact Wrestling now, if anything, they're more of an offshoot of Scott D'Amore's original territory up in Border City, because a lot of the talent is, based out of, like, formerly Border City and in Toronto and, basically the Great Lakes area.
Yeah, I know. They moved it up there. RJ.
Yes.
I was going to say it's 8:30. You wanted to stop at 8, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. But I figured you guys were talking, and I could not contribute anything here, so I let you guys go on with it.
It is very interesting.
Yeah.
All the things you do. See, I always said the behind the scenes of wrestling is more interesting than the actual wrestling itself.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You wouldn't believe if I told you. Who's married to who and who's this and that and other things in the kitchen sink. But no, Thursday, December 1st, over at Reaper Destroyer, Joe's Reaper. I can't remember his. I always forget his last name. His channel. We're doing the sign up for the Steins. Get over there. I believe it's going to start at 7 o'clock, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Going to
sounds like a blast.
And,
Joe Sontag.
They said, yeah, Joe Sontag. But got some artwork to show off. We'll show off some pages and show off some stuff what we're doing, and we'll explain the special thing for signing up early. And we're going to start that December 1st. We're not going to launch the campaign during Christmas because everybody needs to go to Christmas and buy stuff and all that stuff. So it's not. So we're going to wait. We're going to wait till tax time to actually launch the campaign. But this gives us a good amount of time to launch the sign up, so everybody come over and sign up for it.
All right, sounds good. Guys, thanks for showing up tonight. Interesting discussion all around from beginning to end. Covered a lot of bases. Everybody in the chat, thank you for showing up tonight.
I always try to do that, RJ.
You come prepared more than anybody else on the show, Mike. I'm sure you have notes that you have available there. And I'm impressed with how quick you can actually get to facts and bring them up when you have to talk about them, like you did tonight with the pages that you brought up to back yourself up. So,
I'm constantly on those pages, just continuously absorbing the information.
Yep, absolutely. All right, everybody in chat, thanks for showing up. We don't have a show without you. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Be here Monday night, tomorrow night, when we will be talking with actress and stunt woman Alexandra Faye Tzadigian. Tuesday, we'll have Todd Black. Wednesday, Austin Huff and Val Mayerick. And Thursday is yet to be pending, but we'll fill that slot and fill our week up, and we will see you all then. Good night.